Guys, welcome back to the show. I am your host, Arthur G. Today, I have a return guest. It was an episode so nice that we wanted to do it twice. I'm back here with Glenmorangie's national brand ambassador, Daniel Crowel, aka Glenmo Dan. For all of you who enjoyed the episode, some new products have come out and some new items, so we wanted to make sure that we had some more time with Daniel to represent the really exciting, for all of you nerds out there who know this man, Harrison Ford has been a partner with Glenmorangie, so we wanted to make sure we covered that. Dan, welcome back.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. It's great to see you again.
Yeah, man, it was a lot of fun. You have such an interesting background and so much history before you came to this industry.
Thanks. It was I suppose, pleasantly, it was a circuitous route, but it ended up here, and I'm really grateful for that, and obviously grateful for the opportunity to talk through what all that has helped me arrive at in terms of a perception of what this category is and what it can be, and how to make it relatable to a broader audience.
Awesome. Yeah, man. When I mentioned to some of my friends and peers who are also part of the Orlando Whisky Society and because birds of a common feather flock together type of thing. When I told them that I had you on the show and the bottles that we tried, they were immediately started asking me about the experimental collections and all those additions. Yes. Did you get to try those, etc.? I was like, have you never had Glenmorangie? I was like, of course I have. I just didn't have the other versions.
Right.
All these new items that I didn't know about.
Yeah, we've been around 183 years. That's a lot of whiskey. You can't try them all.
Yeah, not without a lot of health concerns.
Exactly.
But definitely, you've had kind of a really unique path, first starting with music and everything, and then you ended up kind of in this space. For all those who did not hear part one, I'm sure Dan would love to tell us more, but tune in for part one about that.
Absolutely.
It was a lot.
We covered a lot, and that's great. And so I went back and listened to it. I thought it was, I really enjoyed what you'd done. So thanks for putting that together.
Of course, man. I'm glad you did. One of those things that I think really resonates with our listeners and anyone who's a consumer of any product is getting to know that person, to see, honestly,
right.
if someone's not likable, people aren't going to really flock to your product either.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
But I have to ask about, so a lot of these new products and these new runs, we talked about your experimental collection. It was remind me some of those names that stood out, because I think we had 12. We saw.
Yeah, we did talk through quite a few. There was a series called the Private Editions, and that ran for 10 years, starting in, I want to say, 2009, ran through 2019. Mm-hmm. And those represented a lot of different avenues of experimentation, both in the experimentation with casks and cask types, experimentation with barley and barley types, and experimentation with yeast. So we did a whole lot over the course of those 10 years, and then that was followed, starting in 2020, by the A Tale of series, the Wonder Makers series, or the A Tale of series, which started with the Tale of Cake and moved through a whole lot of different interesting cask types and playing around with other aspects of whiskey making, until we got ourselves here this year to A Tale of Spices. So those two series sort of represent the inner workings of the mind of Dr. Bill in terms of the what if. And Glenmorangie is one of those brands that is sort of in constant what if mode, which is one of the things that I find refreshing and challenging about it. 13 years in, it's still, oh man, what are we up to next? So it keeps me on my toes for sure.
I like the fact that it doesn't just rest on its laurels and doesn't just not have fun with it.
That's the thing. I think when we'll talk about the Harrison Ford release in a bit, but I think one of the things that he discovered about the people and the place of Glenmorangie is that they're real, live, actual, hardworking, warm, passionate people that make this stuff happen, and then the liquid sort of exudes their personalities and their sort of existence and position on the globe and attitude and history. But it's people at the end of the day, people relating to people in liquid form.
Yeah. And for those at home who didn't listen to part one, which you really should, it was a lot of fun. He's also referencing to Dr. Bill Lumsden.
Yep, that's our guy. He's been our master distiller for many years now. He's this is 31, I believe, year 31. It is. He started as distillery manager at Glenmorangie in 1995, and somewhat quickly was promoted to master distiller for both Glenmorangie and Ardbeg once the purchase of Ardbeg went through in 1997. So he's been at the helm ever since with Gillian MacDonald, his right-hand gal, who's an extraordinary blender
Hmm.
in her own right, a force to be reckoned with and an industry icon. So between the two of them, they have taken the last 31 years of Glenmorangie's 183-year history and really plowed some new ground and brought some really vital energy to a brand, as you'd mentioned, that could have decided, yeah, we've done quite a bit. I think it might be laurel resting time.
It might be time for just got to kick my feet up and just collect.
Yeah, exactly. Just sort of read a book, pet the dog. And Glenn was not there. I think that pervasive thought that yes, we've accomplished a lot of great, great, great things, but if you stop believing that your best days lie ahead, I think you stop pushing yourself to a degree. And Bill has never stopped pushing the envelope, even though he could have, to your point, he could have stopped pushing that envelope many, many years ago, and he still would have been lauded as an industry pioneer and an industry icon. But I don't think he cares as much about that. I think he cares about finding out what happens next.
And that's what one of the things I really do appreciate about creatives. And for all intents and purposes, this is a creative process. Like you're coming up with new flavor profiles. It might, what often people at home might think creative is like a drawing, something, some artistry that you
Right.
can see depicting photography. But there's an aspect of creativeness in creating this whole series or just distilling. And I think we spoke about it as well, that you don't know the end result until way after. So I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would anticipate that every time that a new experimental collection is coming up or something new, they're also doing multiple projects at once because we're not sure what that result's going to be until well after.
Yes, that's absolutely true. There are at any given point probably somewhere in the low 20s in terms of experimental whiskeys happening at any given time. Because some of them will take longer to mature, some of them will take a shorter time to mature. Some have just been, maybe they've been re-racked into a somewhat exotic cask type, or maybe we're waiting to see what will happen during primary maturation to a thing where we might have messed with a yeast strain, we might have messed with a barley type, we might have even messed with other stuff. I can't quite tell you yet, but
Yeah.
other stuff. So there are lots of things. It's a bit like back in my table waiting days. I had, I'd have a section at its worst, at its worst, 11 tables. And not everybody showed up at the exact same time.
Mhm.
So you'd have these people on the 45 minutes in, these people 5 minutes in, these people sort of wrapping up and calming down and maybe throwing some dessert and coffee down. And so you've got to adjust on the fly to the evolution of each individual situation, even though you've got a lot of them going on at once. So that's, I think, an allegory for what Bill does. He's waiting a lot of tables, and each of them is maturing at a given rate.
Yeah, and he'll figure out what works, what doesn't, and then he can
Absolutely.
yeah. I mean, I don't mean to speak for Bill. I'm just kind of assumption.
Well,
Yeah.
and to your point, I think we might have even, I don't know if it came up last time, but I asked him one time I was like, okay, so tell me about your batting average. You got a lot of things going. How many of them are likely to see a bottle that says Glenmorangie on it? And he said, my batting average has slowly gotten better and better and better over time to the point that I don't miss often these days. Which doesn't necessarily mean that he hasn't, had his occasional misses. They just wouldn't find the inside of a bottle that would have a Glenmorangie label on it.
That's 100% fair. I mean, you kind of develop a blueprint, and you get
Mhm.
the more. I would compare it to like a mechanic. It might take him 15 minutes to fix your problem, but it took him 20 years to figure out how to fix it in 15 minutes. So you're not. So it's a lot of experience
Yes.
to get it
Yes.
right and to speed up that process, or at least refine the process, because
Right.
there's not really speeding through whiskey development, right?
No,
Not doing
no.
it
And there
well.
are attempts, as I'm sure you're aware, there are attempts to speed that process up, and they, at least to date, have all ended in a kind of we have to admit that time is going to take the amount of time that time is going to take, and the time passes at time equals time.
Yeah.
And so you can't really reverse engineer a mathematical equation that is 1 = 1.
Yeah.
And all the things that you can do, or that the place can do, or that the wood can do, or that bacteria can do, or that yeast strains, or whatever it can do, are all in some agreement, or at least it's not an agreement. Time doesn't care whether you agree with it or not. It's an acknowledgement that time is ultimately in the driver's seat, and you've gotta respect that in order for the whiskey to show up as a balanced thing.
I was going to say, people might have experimented with speeding through that, and at the end, they just ended up with brown water. That probably cost them more than it should have.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've seen and it's not even. I love reading about that stuff because somebody's curious. Somebody doesn't take no for an answer, and it's like, yeah, keep going. We can't exactly say that it's impossible, but it's proved to be impossible so far. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's always going to remain impossible. And as long as there's somebody out there going, I think I can beat time, then something interesting is bound to come from it. Whether it's good or not remains to be, in the eye of the beholder, but something interesting is bound to happen.
Yeah, with that perfect transition about something interesting. This new series with Harrison Ford, the limited edition, just launched. Hollywood legend, and for a lot of my listeners at home who are massive nerds, Han Solo whiskey just resonates really heavily with them.
Yes. To the point that we released it on May the 4th. So, yeah.
Which was a brilliant move. There are so many people who's like, oh, you know what I need?
Right.
Brilliant.
Yeah, we just kind of had to. It was the opportunity was staring us in the face.
Yes. So tell me about that. How did Dr. Bill and the team go about going through Harrison Ford's personal palate and translating his preference into a tangible cask recipe while sending samples back and forth across the Atlantic? Because I don't assume that Harrison Ford was just hanging out at the distillery.
It was a combination of each. He was there when they shot all of the videos, and if you haven't, for your viewers / listeners, if you haven't seen them, all 12, and now I think there are 13, are on the Glenmorangie YouTube channel. They're all worth watching. Some of them are quite funny. They're all quite funny, actually.
He's hilarious.
But during the initial period where he was in Scotland for filming, and at the distillery and so on and so forth, he did spend quite a lot of time, as I would in the same situation, quite a bit of time with Bill, talking about his preferences, wandering through warehouses, pulling bungs, and figuring out where his palate preferences lie, so that Bill in real time would have a sense of how Mr. Ford was responding to these various whiskey styles and whiskey characters and whiskey sets of aromatics and palate profiles and flavor preferences and so on and so forth, so that not all, but the real point, I think, behind all the shipments that went from Glenmorangie to the U.S. for Harrison Ford to evaluate and give feedback on was a tweaking of an idea that was already in its foundational build. So it was really, so far as I've been able to glean, it was just a tweaking of a concept that was already pretty solidly built.
That's awesome.
From their interaction in real time.
And so your point about the videos are probably hilarious. He is always hilarious in all of his interviews and
he's so funny.
He's so damn charming.
It's just such a dry, and it shouldn't surprise you that there's at least a little bit of spiciness on the palate of the Harrison Ford release, because he's a pretty dry. His delivery, his acting delivery, his comic timing, so on and so forth. It's pretty dry, and that's what makes it even funnier somehow, because he's his own sort of straight man, which I think is fantastic. But I think when you dig into the whiskey, it's a fair representation of his vibe, which of course is sort of the goal in slapping his name on the front. It even says on the box, that he wanted to be something that he would like, but that Bill would be proud of. And when you're Bill and you've got the legacy that Bill has, not much under a certain quality threshold is going to make you proud, like none. So it's got to be really damn good. So that, the walking papers are basically making an incredible whiskey that also happens to line up with the palate preferences of Harrison Ford.
Yeah. And it's one of those, I think previous episodes I've spoken about, like celebrity-backed brands or something. The fact that Harrison Ford actually tried it, actually refined, like it wasn't just he slapped his name on it, never sampled it, never had anything to do with it. There are other celebrities, I won't speak about them now because we're obviously talking about your brand, but that have had like, hey, they've actually cared about the product. So to see Harrison Ford actually say, no, this has to be right, and I want to be a part of it, and I don't want to put my name on it unless I tried it, because what happens if it's swill and terrible? And it's just associated with him. But also that he's an enthusiast and he enjoys it. So definitely worth experimenting and trying with. That was just a unique thing to see when I saw it come up. It's like, Harrison Ford is doing whiskey now.
Right. And there is celebrity fatigue. And I suffer from it, certainly. Of course, I always have and always will. But I think the thing about celebrity endorsements is that it can have a very sort of steeped in cynicism kind of a thing, in terms of calculated for effect rather than engineered from passion.
Yeah.
And I think that it was important. We wouldn't have undertaken it had it been something that was calculated for effect. Yeah. It was, I think that this would be, the corporate eye, think that this would be a synergistic partnership that has a lot of good potential vibe happening. Let's poke around and see what happens. And he, fortunately, and he even said in a recent interview, something about arriving in Scotland and having that sort of seep into you changes you, and the way that the Scots handle the passage of time and each other, and the sort of the warmth and passion and authenticity and pacing of their lives and their modes of speech and communication stunk into him, and he walked away feeling like, this is a different place than where I'm from. And it's worth celebrating, which that was, I think, a real key difference for me.
All of that was very much different than the experiences I've had with most celebrity endorsed or backed or partnered brands. But I mean, there's some fantastic brands that I've tried. Whiskey Gypsy's one of them. All those kind of brands that have celebrities attached or near the name, but they've been quality, fantastic products.
Yeah.
So, but I understand what your point is about that. I mean, we agree. There is a cynicism that comes with, is this person just getting paid to be on a label or hold the bottle in a commercial, or is it something that they actually believe in? And that this obviously is very much the latter of, this is something to believe in and want to be a part of.
I think so. He doesn't need to be more famous than the most famous.
Yeah, he's not broke. He's not broke. This is not,
and he's not hurting for name recognition or face recognition at all. Mm-hmm. So it isn't what we knew about working with him was that it wasn't going to be something where, and it's odd to say about a celebrity, but it wasn't going to be steeped in main character syndrome problems. He was willing to become a new version of him in real time, and it was written into it. But I think he really actually did too, not just the kilt and not just that stuff, but I think it affected him, and a different version of him emerged from the process than the one that went in. And I think that's where the value to him was rendered. The value to us is, somewhat clear. Yeah. He's a well-known guy, and the whiskey. Our job was to put fantastic whiskey in the bottle, and I think that's what happened. So just to kind of not screw up the synergy that organically showed up because the puzzle pieces were put on the table and they worked. Sort of once it works, you just kind of get out of its way a little.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we've tried to do, which is ideally has kept it from feeling contrived and cynical and usurious and BS-y. Because people, their BS detectors are very good. There's a lot of it around, and people's BS detectors have gotten quite good.
Yeah.
And we never want to trigger that reflex. And in this case, it was very important to not trigger the reflex because of a celebrity endorsement fatigue and so on and so forth.
I completely understand that. So about this specific release, the release blends your classic expert maturation, but tell us more about what makes this different than other of your blends. I'm going to grab my glass while you tell our listeners.
Yes, a slightly higher ABV than our standard core releases. Bottle at 46.5 ABV and non-chill filtered. Bill has worked in the past with Portuguese red wine cask, These were retoasted Portuguese red wine casks, and I think what he was hoping to do was to when we've done toasted wine barrels in the past, it's a combination of sort of revitalizing the oak itself and then giving some sort of Maillard modification or browning or heat-driven evolution of flavors to the previous occupants' compounds that are stuck in the wood. So I think the combination of what happened in those casks in terms of yes, wood extraction and the you know the porosity being sort of opened up even a little bit more from the retoasting, caramelization of wine sugars in there, caramelization of wood sugars in there, and a decent amount. We can't talk about the number,
Yeah.
but I think the official marketing language says older than you think. At some point, you and I can talk about what that number is,
Well,
but it's a decent amount of time in cask that helped the balance point between the spiciness coming from the wood and the robust character of the Portuguese red wine influence, oxidation over a pretty decent amount of time in cask helped to knit that stuff together and give it a little bit more roundness and nuance so that it wasn't just this sort of fireworks show of extracted spiciness and bombast.
I like the spice at the end though. I
Yes.
do, yeah. I just had the first sip and I'm like, I don't mind it. It kind of it's almost like wakes you up a little bit. Like, okay, like
Yeah.
there's some
Yeah.
depth
And it's,
there.
to your point, it's definitely there.
Mhm.
And it shows up, you get a sense of where you're headed, and then a thing kind of happens. Quite a pleasing and high definition tingle that happens. Like I've been using the analogy. Have you ever returned a rental car and it looks like you're going to have all your tires shredded when you drive in to return the rental car?
Yes.
It's a little bit like halfway returning the rental car and then dropping it into reverse and just slashing half the tires.
Mm.
So, it's like, okay, I'm nearly there. Nah, I'm just going to give it a little bit of a spiky thing, a little bit of a reminder that it's on the palate, little bit of a spicy sort of I
It's
think
like
they
citrus.
refer to it officially as a bite, but I don't know if
Yeah.
it's bitey so much as I think where you're
It,
headed.
it feels like so there's you can tell there's like citrus in there, but it does have that little bit of like spice at the end that kind of like
Yeah.
just it's not hard. It's not harsh. It's not like some hazmat crazy thing that like clears your sinuses. This is like
Right.
a nice like remember you're alive type of bite. And it's a funny way of saying
Yeah,
it, but it's
exactly.
it's
A little
good.
bit of a it feigns you out of position a
Yeah.
little bit with its citrusy friendliness, and then that tiny little friendly tap on the cheek.
But yeah, whenever you hear something that's finished with wine barrels, you expect sweeter finish or something like that.
You
Something that
do.
kind of removes that or dry, depending on the type of wine.
Yeah,
This
get tannins on tannins. Exactly
yeah.
right.
So this didn't come out how I expected. This is the first time I'm trying it legitimately on air for the first.
Oh,
Yeah,
very cool. That's fantastic.
yeah. I try to have real time reactions, and it's good. It gives you it's not overly dry, but it's not something I don't know. It's a good balance. That spice is
Uh,
what keeps coming back. Is the citrus
yep.
notes in the front, and then that spice at the end, kind of a light bite to remind you of like, hey, you're drinking. Where
Yeah, exactly.
so it's a light color too. It's not a
No, no, that's the thing. I think people are gonna. I think it's going to be quite purpley because of its association with Portuguese red wine cask, but
mm,
it isn't. And toasting is going to help to turn those sort of fruit pigmentations a little bit browner than purpley. But at the same time, that front end complex fruitiness with a sort of a citrusy core,
mhm.
that's kind of us. That's kind of Glenmo.
Yeah.
And then the other stuff is sort of the through the Harrison Ford filter. And it shows you where he's coming from. It shows you where we're coming from and where he's coming from in a really compelling balance, I think.
I like it a lot. I'm not gonna lie to you. We tried the other runs and on my top shelf right now is that 15, the
Oh
Glenmorangie 15.
yes. Oh yes.
I still rank that higher, but it's just my personal preference. But this is fantastic.
The Lasanta 15, to your point,
This,
is just a stunner. I did not expect such a sort of a the 12 was very good. The 15 is just sublime to me. I really, really dig it.
I want to tell you a dirty secret, and I know Laura's gonna hear this. A dirty secret. That 15, I've been trying to create content for it. I can't stop drinking it. So so instead I'm using the other full bottles for the content, because every time I pour it, I'm like, oh, I can't waste this. So, what am I
No,
doing?
no, it would be a tragedy if it went to waste.
I guess I have to drink it now that I poured it.
Oh,
Oh,
darn.
darn. But so definitely recommend the 15. I haven't even opened the other two yet, because I'm like, I can't drink all the props. Like, I can't just do that. It's gonna be a problem.
That would be an issue, yes.
Yeah, I have some content coming out about the work you guys do with giraffes and all
right
that
on.
based off of the stills, which I
Oh,
think is
yes.
pretty funny. And that kept coming up in the retakes. I was like, this is so dumb of me. I'm just drinking it. But this Harrison Ford one is fantastic. Is a very good product. It's very good. I like the finish. I'm going to keep sipping on it.
Yep.
But tell us more about the Once Upon a Time in Scotland campaign too, because it was a lot of fun to see. It's highly cinematic, because you expect that. Witty, Harrison
Yep.
Ford. We talked about it. As an ambassador, like, does that make you kind of change the way you present the product? Is kind of narrative driven humor change the way modern consumers engage with this historic product? Is that something that you keep in mind now when you're presenting and talking to people at these kind of events?
My favorite thing about what we've done with this campaign is that it gives light and voice and camera time to the people who make this stuff, the people responsible for it. And with the exception of him and the bagpipe guys who work at Glenmorangie House, the rest are distillery workers.
Wait,
All of them.
the bagpipe guys work there, like they're employees.
Yeah,
who also
Duncan.
play-
So that's Duncan McGillivray and his two sons, and so Duncan plays very, very frequently at Glenmorangie House. If you happen to stay at Glenmo House, one of the things that happens on a pretty regular basis is that during your dinner course, the haggis gets piped in by Duncan. So the older of the three bagpipe guys is the guy that typically will pipe the haggis in when it's being served at Glenmorangie House. Then he's an award-winning bagpiper from many, many, many decades, and those are his two sons with him.
That is such an interesting fact. I did not realize that at all.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, does anyone know how to play an instrument? I got it.
Right. No, yeah. So no, he's Duncan's the man, an absolute legend.
Oh, shout out to Duncan.
And with the exception of the makeup gal that crashes on the hill, everybody else that you see, everybody in the warehousing, everybody at the distillery are distillery workers. The two Allens, the father and son Allen, are just a stitch. The Scots, I think, are naturally funny people.
Yeah.
I love their delivery. I love the sort of the wry wit and the way that they look at the world, and the sort of the BS free view of sort of the human condition. It's so much fun hanging out with them, because they're artless and calm and real humans. And so the thing that I love most about this whole campaign is it's about damn time that they got some camera time, because they've been carrying the load and making this stuff happen for not these specific people, but for 183 years. And they don't get the props they deserve, and they also don't get to communicate to the drinking public. We're people just like your people. This is just us communicating our situation, but in a language that you narrate to yourself. That's the bit I think. If it took Harrison Ford to be a conduit between people's understanding of the category and people's understanding of the people, then that makes the whole thing worth it, even in and of itself. If it took him to open the eyes of the drinking public to this isn't just a corporation and a bunch of machines and copper and artistically photoed barley fields and so on and so forth. It's people busting their ass to do this thing, to bring you a thing that brings them so much joy, with an equal helping of the recognition that a big chunk of their joy is them understanding that you enjoy what they've done.
Yeah.
Not just from a fiduciary. I mean, yeah, we've got to sell whiskey, of course, or we got a business. Okay, that's well established. But when you see these people in front of the camera, and they are very comfortable in the presence of one of the most famous people in the world, and they say funny stuff, and their timing is amazing. It's like there just isn't that much difference. The human condition is a thing, and we're all living it. And let's just kind of dig each other's vibe for a minute.
I completely love the fact that we're highlighting people who work behind the scenes and don't necessarily get that public notoriety. Part of what we even
Yeah,
try to do here at the show is always kind of talk to people behind the label and get to know what drove them here and why. This is part of the reason why we always get that personal notes first. Because I think it's
yeah.
important to highlight the person behind all the work and effort. Something
I
brought
I
you here.
really, that's your sensitivity towards that speaks volumes for you and the quality of the show. Because at the end of the day, it's people have to do a thing to make a living. If you're lucky, you get to do a thing that you love and make a living doing it. But you're still a person behind the paycheck and behind the logo on the shirt and behind all the stuff. You're still a person who's been through some stuff and grinding it out like the rest of the normal world. And so to be able to have that sort of that's I think uh, moment where you have a visceral connection
Mhm.
with another person, whatever it is that they happen to do. You're interested in this category, and you see some folks that work in it or behind the scenes of it. And then that veil is lifted, and you're like, oh, they're just people. They're just doing a thing, and they're just into the thing. That's great. I can connect with that vibe. You facilitate that authentic connection from person to person that I think is what whiskey is really, really, really good at.
I completely agree. I think spirits in general, I mean, we joked about it last time. It was food, music, and spirits are probably three of the most universal languages possible. And
Yep.
those are always tied to a great memory. You could hear a song, you remember a drink that you shared with a friend. That it's not about the getting drunk or whatever feeling that euphoria. I
No.
mean, that's a benefit. But yeah, there's that story, that connection, that memory, that moment. If you do, as we say, drunk responsibly, you have that memory.
Right. Right.
Otherwise,
Right. Yeah,
yeah, I
exactly.
can't speak for the rest.
Your point about music and
Food.
adult beverages, for example. I mean, food triggers a different sort of chemical response that gives you a certain level of insight into yes, the culinary process, but you're also interpreting it with your own experiences. Then the things you've tasted in the past is a story of you, sort
Mhm.
of in solid form. Alcohol and music tap slightly beyond the conscious self into that layer right underneath. When consumed in a responsible way,
Drink
alcohol can
responsibly.
help. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Alcohol can help to allow you to see a slightly different shade of your own reality. Uh, Music can help you sort of recognize your cosmic self
Yeah.
in the sounds that you hear, and take you outside of the to-do list associated with your everyday existence. So those things combined, I think, to your point, can create these crystalline moments where everything just sort of the stars align and it's buried in there, and you never forget it, and it brings you great joy to recall that. That I think is one of the things, one of those things that I think part of why you do what you do is to highlight that it isn't just not just shilling for this or that, or not just pointing people towards this or that. It's a greater understanding of themselves at the end of the day,
Yeah.
and that I think is what I enjoy most about it.
I yeah, I love it, man. It's one of those. I had played this game with a couple of friends. We always do the would you rather kind of ask questions, all that. And I will mention, tell me about your first drink, tell me about your favorite drink, or was it tell me about what's the one song that you associate with high school? So what's the first drink you
Oh
had when you turned
man.
21? Tell me, and we'll have like it's funny how fast those memories get triggered, like, and you kind of
Yep.
get transported back to that. So spirits like this in the actual those nights that you drink and remember are always going to be those that are part of like the reminiscing. I could sit around a table and talk to my friends about the first time I drank my deathbed cocktail. It's a final ward. When I
Oh,
when
hell yeah.
when I could remember all those things and just associate it with it. So getting to know the people behind the brand and what they do kind of adds levity to it. Like this is much more than just that brown water. They
Yeah.
created, and that has to be kind of a proud moment that I don't know if they think about it. The people there at the distillery think about it enough. It's like how much of an impact that they can have on someone's like, hey, traditions. Hey, we do this like part of their everyday in their lives could surround this spirit. And
Yeah, I think particularly at places where and this isn't exclusive to these places, but particularly in places during like tourist season or high tour season, if you're working a 8, 9, 10 hour shift, watching the spirit safe, and making cuts and all that kind of stuff, it can become you're paying attention and everything is everybody's critical and there's a lot of things going on there, but watching group after group after group after group after group coming through and marveling and just being like it's their sort of uh, whiskey cathedral moment.
yeah,
There's I've only worked there a tiny bit, but for the career folk, that's got to be something where you reflect back and think, I bring a lot of joy to people I'll never meet. And so that's what makes this work even more sort of
huh?
important.
That's a really really true statement there. I bring a lot of joy to people I will never ever see smile, like never see them, never meet
Right.
them. Okay.
Yeah, and those people coming on the tour are sort of proxy versions of for every one you see, there's probably 10,000 who feel the exact same way, but are never going to be able to visit. You'll never interact with them. But the joy is palpable.
Yeah.
And just because one of them is there and the other 10,000 that one represents aren't there, the joy is equal at least across each one of them.
So hopefully the long story short, for my and my fiance's honeymoon, we're thinking about going to Europe.
Right on.
So if if the budget allows and the time allows, we plan on stopping at plenty of places. So I'll let you know if
Heck
I'm good
yeah.
there.
Please do. Well, we will set you up with a tour, Glenmorangie, Ardbeg, both, whatever you want to do.
Perfect.
We'll make sure that you have a really lovely time.
I appreciate that. I'll let you know because we've spoken about it when I told her that I got you on the show. She's like, "Oh my god, like I can't wait to go to those distilleries." I'm like, hence why I'm
Okay,
marrying
let's
this
go.
woman. So real quick, so as we talk about, we often focus heavily on the wood management of these towering stills, but I want to kind of go more about the other raw ingredients. Glenmorangie uses hard mineral water from from the springs nearby. I'll let you
Yep.
kind of dig into that and let us know a little bit more. But how does that hard water impact the mashing and fermentation process to build the foundation of your spirit?
It's going to show up more chemically in terms of it being a catalyst for something different to happen. That will show up more in fermentation than it will in mashing. And that comes down to yeast nutrition and metabolization. Um, when you analyze the water coming out of Tarlogie Springs, and it's not unique to us, any spring-fed distillery around that area, that any spring water from that area or up on Orkney is going to be subject to a difference in geological substrate. So instead of being a granite substrate in those spots, it's a sandstone and limestone, which are going to be more affected by the intrusion of water in terms of chemical breakdown. So what rain falling in our area will seep into the rocky substrate, interact with calcium, magnesium. Interact with sandstone and limestone, producing dissolving part of that rock, delivering it in a soluble way to the spring, which is going to result in higher levels of calcium and magnesium in the mash. So then when you pitch your yeast's job is initially to figure out where it's at. It's sort of lag phase. It's assessing its environments, assessing the relative pH levels, and so on and so forth. Where the food is, how much of it's there, and how many nutrients are available for them to start building new yeasts. And so calcium, magnesium salts are of high nutritive value to yeast propagation. So if you are able to get your yeast to propagate more quickly and efficiently, you got more little yeasts doing more work in a shorter period of time. So what you end up with is a higher level of fatty acid ester formation. What yeast are doing to a degree are metabolizing sugars and nutrients in the water, budding, building new yeasts, and then those new yeasts are building membranes in cell membranes inside their yeastdom, and so they're gonna pig out and eventually die. And so that yeast autolysis situation where the yeast is dying, it explodes, and all the things that it used to build its cell membranes, these long chain fatty acid chains, would be referred to as esters, and they show up on the nose and palate as being fruity. So these long chain fruity esters are the result of yeast building itself, dying, exploding, and releasing its building blocks back into the fermentation base. So if you have more yeast doing that in a shorter period of time because you got more nutrients in your mash substrate, then you end up with a more vigorous fermentation in a shorter period of time than it would generally take to get to that same level of esterification in soft water or minerally non-interactive water or geologically non-interactive water. So let's say you were at a distillery that is known for being a somewhat estery or fruit-forward style of whiskey making. Say, to take Oban for an example. Oban runs off of soft water. Fermentation is pretty long, in the 90s to low hundreds. They're going to produce a whiskey that's got quite a lot of fruitiness associated with it. At the time we were fermenting the stuff that is in bottle now, those fermentation times were 56 hours, and it's still quite a fruity whiskey. And that goes back to, at least in part, that goes back to yeast health and yeast capacity for propagation in a shorter period of time because of the nutrients available in the water.
Yeah, Dan, you're not just a normal brand ambassador.
well, that's the stuff. I mean,
but you understand the science and you speak to it with credibility. But man, go ahead.
You certainly try because all these not throwaway,
They're not throwaway.
whiskey marketing. We've been doing a lot of events in the first half of this year that are, I mean, everything that I do is a function of whiskey marketing, sure, but whiskey marketing in its sort of most usurious form is an attempt to steal a consumer's objectivity and replace it with confirmation bias.
Yeah.
Confirmation bias is so strong, particularly if you don't know that it's been placed in your head, like you agreed to the cookies, and now they're there, and the cookies are doing stuff that you didn't know they were doing. Confirmation bias is doing the thing where it is convincing you to taste what you've been told you ought to taste.
Yeah.
Or to believe a thing that you've been told is true, or you've been told you should believe, or whatever. It's manipulative in its worst form. It's manipulative, and it's no way to treat a consumer that you respect. I guess at the end of the day, it's the lowest common denominator. It gets the job done, but it is no way to build a long-lasting relationship with the consumer base. So what I try to do instead is to open people's heads up to their own rights and their own interpretations based on an understanding of how the liquid got there that respects their intelligence and gives them, in certain cases, somewhat complex information in a way that's digestible because it's showing up on the palate in ways that didn't get dictated to you. Tasting notes are sometimes you want to get a sense of where the whiskey's headed before you invest in it. But then after that, you kind of need to ignore what everybody else tells you want to taste.
I was about to
because
say,
it steals your objectivity.
I try to ignore any of those like online tasting notes or anything like that because not everyone's palate's the same.
No.
I think you hit on a pretty important thing. It's like not forcing that suggestion. It's like this is what you're gonna, just allowing that consumers have the knowledge, have the experience, kind of know where it should be, and but figure it out the details. The details are
Yes.
up to you. The little fine details are up to the consumer themselves, but giving them
Yep.
the kind of the tools and the kind of guiding. Like, here's a starting point. That's what you got. Like,
Yes. Yeah. We've done a ton of classroom consumer events this like more than usual.
yeah, you did
And
ABC Liquor last time we spoke, right?
yeah, and we're doing,
Or was it Total Wine?
well, we're doing a lot with Total Wine.
Oh, yeah.
And each consumer's perception of Total Wine as a malevolent or benevolent thing is up to them.
Hashtag not a sponsor. Not a
But yeah,
sponsor.
just make your own determination. But they interact with a tremendous number of consumers. So as long as they're going to give us an opportunity to interact with their consumers, I'm going to start setting the records as straight as I can from the very beginning. And so each one of those classroom events starts with the following statement, basically, and not verbatim, but it's always your experience, no matter what. It was always yours from the first glass that you ever picked up ever. You were the expert in what it meant to you. So own the experience, trust your palate, and then seek the information that drives your agenda forward and reject the stuff that doesn't. And yes, it's hard to know what to ask when you don't, it's hard to ask the right questions when you don't know what you don't know. But as long as you're being placed in an environment that recognizes your value and your perceptions as being paramount to the only thing that matters to you, then the rest is not just semantics. The rest is the logistics of navigating the information stream in a way that benefits you the most substantively. The perceived value of the thing doesn't necessarily go back to, oh, I got that for a song. The perceived value goes back to, what did I get out of this that was defined by me, determined by me? Was I recognized? How was this made my thing? We may have talked about this last time, but it's a version of whiskey speed dating, and nobody goes to speed dating to sit around listening to the coordinator of speed dating. They want to make a connection. That's why they're there. So if you don't respect and facilitate and build a conduit to that connectivity or the connection, then you are wasting everybody's time in the room. And I think you need to dig deep to be able to get the more I study, the more the philosophical stuff makes sense to me, because it's a place where you can connect the philosophy to the data via a certain degree of empathy and passion. If you can combine all that stuff, then whiskey education and advocacy makes sense. If you can't, then you're wasting people's time, and you should stop talking and leave the room.
Thank you for that. Brand ambassadors at home are dialing it in, phoning it in.
And everybody's got their own style, and I understand that. You just got to find the one that resonates with the audience in a way that they perceive as valuable to them for the long haul.
I mean, you've been pretty successful in this, so maybe they should take your advice. Listen, but all jokes aside, with Dr. Bill Lumsden,
Nicely done, yeah.
Is often described as a man scientist of Scotch. Actually, I've even heard his name associated with other brands, but that's for another day. Having presented his creations for years, what is something that about his blending process or his approach that to these kind of what ifs in these scenarios that still are you still surprised by some of the things he comes up with, or his style of approach?
I am, and it comes down to I've been fortunate to get to know him, and I think even in some of the post-release interviews with Harrison Ford, I think he even said about Bill, and I'm really glad he picked it up, that you see him coming a mile away. He is energy manifest. You almost feel him coming before you see him coming. And the thing that I really appreciate about how he handles what he does for Glenmorangie and Ardbeg is that he approaches it with an unbridled passion and enthusiasm, but a non-negotiable fearlessness. And I think a guy of his stature who has earned the right to show no fear, he's always done that. It wasn't, oh, well, until I get to a certain level in my career, I'm going to play it safe. Never, ever did he ever do that. He's never going to. So for me, it's the fearlessness. It's, yes, the passion and the skill, and the creativity and the artistry that he brings to it. But it's the fearlessness to me that I think drives so much of that, that keeps me intrigued. Not just, oh man, what's this guy up to? What's gonna come out next? More,
Staring suspiciously, what?
yeah, I can't wait to taste the product of that level of skill, that level of passion, that level of artistry, and that level of fearlessness.
That's such a dope thing. Sorry to just simplify it. That was such an awesome thing to just see someone just I'm gonna try something. You guys are about
Yeah.
just kind of demand that, like,
Yep.
kind of command it because you've earned that right. But even prior to that, just like, I'm just confident that this is gonna work out. Let's do it. And if it doesn't, we learned and we move on to the next thing and let's go. There's so many people afraid of taking a step and making mistakes and not doing the right thing and not do. So it's awesome to see that.
It's great to be associated with a guy who has that enough gravitas. He and I, work for a gigantic corporation. It's fantastic to see a guy who's that fearless in that environment, because those environments tend to instill fear, whether they mean to or not. The fact that he remains with a surprising level of autonomy
Yeah.
and an indelible fearlessness. It gives me it's a motivator for me, because I get to tap into that by helping people make sense of the output of it.
Yeah, that I'm thinking about the fact that we earlier when we spoke about that, he's kind of refined the process to make it so he knows this should work. But he's had to earn that, right? That's trials and tribulations and failures and 31 years doing this. So there's a certain level where it's almost like letting him do his things. Like, we will work, everything else will work. He's got that. And it just kind of goes to the side. We're not worried about that. We're going to be over here.
Yes.
And it allows him that autonomy. It was like, we already know you got it. Whatever you're going through, just let us know what color label we're making, and just move on.
Exactly.
So that's
exactly.
It has to be one of those. Not like even then he's not just like, well, I made it. I don't really have to try hard. They're gonna just trust whatever I do, a la Stephen King with 15 books at a time. But with Dr. Bill, it just seems like no matter what, he's like, all right, I'm gonna push the envelope. I'm gonna try something new. I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna try this, and it keeps like, I mean, outside of that one, was the garden. There was one that was
Tale of the Forest, yeah.
Tale of the Forest, excuse me. Where that other side of that one was kind of polarizing. It seems like the rest have been resounding hits.
Yeah, and Forrest is, I think we might have mentioned, Forrest was an inevitable assertion of his contrarianism. I want to know. I don't give a I don't care. I do, but I don't care what you think of the output. I need to know. I need to know how this is going to go. And if I'm the only person in the world that this whiskey appeals to, so be it. It was a one-off. It's an experimental release. The damage is limited. But I hope you like it. If you don't, I'm sorry, I guess, but I'm not.
It's in the series' name. It's like, this is experimental. We're going to figure it out.
Yeah, and Finalta was the same. Finalta came after a very successful thing.
What was the name?
And it was Finalta came after Sunalta. So the first private edition release was called Sunalta PX, and that was in 2009.
PX cherry,
and it was wildly successful. It was non-age stated, bottle at 46 ABV, finished in first fill PX, and everybody loved it. The very next whiskey was peated Glenmo. And it threw everybody for a loop because everybody had fallen in love. They knew this was a series. They knew it was going to be something they wanted to dig into because they'd loved Finalta so much. Mm-hmm. Finalta happened, and I knew why he did it. He did it to try to recreate what Glenmorangie as a thing would have tasted like at the turn of the 20th century, when we were floor malting our own barley, when we were doing a whole bunch of different stuff than we do. Well, not that much different stuff. Same water source and same basic idea. But it was a recreation of what might have happened when we were using our own malting floors, which happened until 1980. So Finalta was a conscious effort to revisit. If you were in the Art Deco era, sitting around sipping Glenmorangie, it probably tasted more like that what's in a bottle of Fenalta than what it tastes like today. But people were thrown because it was a mildly smoky Glenmo, which always freaks people out. Then so was Tale of the Forest, a real sort of a what the hell just happened kind of moment.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I've now want to try the Tales of the Forest. I've wanted to try it since our last episode. Like, just because I want to see why it was so controversial.
Yeah, it's a wild ride. And please send me your tasting notes because I would love to know what you think of it.
Because it's one of those things. I was like, why was everyone so like? I guess you're just on opposite ends of this. I'm like, I'm just curious. Whatever.
Right.
The nerd in me is like, I need to know why. Well, shoot,
I must know.
Doctor and Bill and I apparently. Like, I was like, why? As we, we're getting to the tail end. As much as we love having you on the show, and 3 or 4 times, that's fine. We'll work it out. I know in part 1, tune in, everyone at home. If you have not checked out part 1, it was so much fun. But we talked about deathbed cocktails, all of the great stuff that you probably already know from us. But I did want to ask you, when we talked about music, that was one of the big things, right, that we spoke about in part 1. And we talked about pairing whiskey with music, and you gave us I saved the album and the Police.
Right, yes.
I have that as part of the playlist, but I want to ask you, we're going to take that a step further. If we were giving the keys to the warehouse to giving you were going to be telling Dr. Bill what to do, to co-create your own limited edition with any legendary musician, I said specifically drummer, but musician, living or dead, who would you pick to collaborate? And what would be the dominant cask finish for the release?
Wow.
Heavy question, right?
It is, and there are like 9 different directions that I would go if I could do it 9 different times. But the guy that I've always been impressed with in terms of never allowing himself to settle when settling would have been just fine. Bill Bruford, who for many years was gained a lot of fame and money as the drummer for Yes, and decided to chuck it at the height of the band's fame to go join the 1980s version of King Crimson, which was quite a leap, quite a departure, and nowhere near the chart-topping success of his previous band. And the way that he applies his rhythmic sense to everything he does, even in the in the Yes days, in the King Crimson days, in his own band Earthworks and his solo records and so on and so forth, the way that he applies rhythm is so uniquely him. It's so his voice, and you just know it the minute you hear the snare drum tone, the minute where he places a downbeat, his perception of where one ought to be, his capacity for throwing you off of where one could have been and isn't, his ability to take odd signatures and make them groove, all the instrumentation, the experimentation with on the leading edge of electronics, way back when that stuff was brand new, and the way that it wasn't just a gadget. It wasn't just a noisemaker. They incorporated it instantly and seamlessly into his capacity to make art. That guy thinks differently. He's built differently, and his what he's motivated most by is breaking down his own barriers to what's possible. And he's always done it extraordinarily well. He's the first guy who's willing to just chuck everything and try something completely different, and throw himself at it and become amazing at this thing that had never been done before. He'd never tried before. Fearlessness. And it shows up in the playing. I can listen to Bruford play anytime, and it speaks to the soul.
All right. What would be the dominant cask finish?
I've lost your audio. Okay. Oh, I think you're back now.
What would be the dominant cask finish?
I think it would be interesting to work with we haven't done much with, say, like plum brandy. But I sure would like to. I would like to find out what would happen if we worked with a plum brandy cask, like Plum brandies aren't necessarily the ones that I've had aren't necessarily barrel aged, but
Are you talking about like an eau de
I
vie?
like Glenmo in
Are you talking like an eau
yeah. I
de vie?
mean, I like oh golly, what is it? It's Polish Slivovich. Is plum brandy. That might even be a liqueur version of plum brandy, but I think
There's a
some kind, not just stone fruit brandy, but oh, go ahead.
Oh, like there's a brand that Ryan Hall that makes a plum eau de vie that's an unaged brandy that's been fantastic. But you're talking about like
Yeah,
that, like
if you could, if you, I would like to see what would happen if you barrel aged something like that
mhm,
for a decent amount of time,
mhm,
and then sent us the barrels. We did a Calvados cask that I find really funky and intriguing,
mhm.
that speaks to its raw materials without losing its Glenmoranginess. And I think it'd be fun to play around with something related to plum brandy. Uh, a there's loads of different like funky brandies all over Europe that are unique to the places that they're from, and I'd love to be able to sort of explore these historic regional brandy types as secondary cast types for a finishing of a Glenmorangie. Plum I just find intriguing because I haven't really seen anybody do anything with it.
I like that. That's was not what I expected, so I like that. I like that. I wasn't. It just surprised me. Like plum brandy would be a really unique one. I like that. Good. Yeah.
Just as a what the hell could it, what how could that go?
Yeah.
And it might be a train wreck,
So
but I'd love to find
you're in
out.
charge of Bill, that Dr. Bill that day. So it does.
Exactly. And Bill Bruford is a Bill, so it could be the t tale of two Bills.
Tale of Two Bill. Someone write that down. Tale of Two Bills. All right. So Dan, thank you for being on the show. Where can people find you, support you,
Oh yeah.
make sure that they find, like, keep track of where you're at? So this not stalkerish, but so if they want to see you in real life and see one of your events.
Right on. I usually what happens in my professional life shows up on Instagram, ideally before it happens, sometimes not till after. But for the rest of this year, I'll be in loads of different places around the country. This week coming up, I'll be in Louisville and Lexington, Kentucky. After that, I will be doing some really cool stuff, I think, in Chicago. And then by the end of the month, I'll be somewhere else entirely. But Instagram's probably the way to do it, at Glenmo Dan, Glenmodan, which has been in certain cases interpreted as Glenmodan. And I think that was an AI speech to text thing that said called me Glenmodan. And I was like, oh. And then some other folks have been writing me notes and saying, hey, Glenn. And I understand why they would. Like, Glenn's my first name and Moden is my last name, which is not the truth. But Glenmo Dan is typically the outlet for that kind of information, and I'm on anybody who's interested.
I love that. Hey, Glenn. What?
Wait a minute.
Not,
Oh,
not
that,
Glenn,
yes.
but okay. What's up? How can I help you?
I played with it a tiny bit on a short video that I did during the pandemic. It was just a random
Well,
thing.
Glenn, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks.
Dan, of course, it was a lot of fun having you the second time around. Even the
It's
first
not-
time, hell of an episode for everyone who has, at home hasn't checked it out. We learned more about specifically Glenmorangie and their history, and well, Daniel himself and how he got into the industry and everything, what music ties into it. So if you want the origin story, check out part 1 of this. I really enjoyed having you on. Again, can't stress that enough. Make sure you give Glenn Dan like and follow on social media outlets, and hopefully if he shares a calendar with us, we'll make sure to reshare it so this way you know where to see him, and where to support and try the brand out and hear more about the brand, him, and everything that's going on with Glenmorangie.
Awesome. Arthur, thank you again so much. It's always an honor. The work that you do is incredibly important to the category. So keep doing what you do. I have mad respect for what you do.
Appreciate it, man. And thanks. Big shout out as always. Shout out to Laura for putting us together.
Oh,
I always give her a shout out whenever I can. Try to
she's
throw
awesome.
her flowers, even though she's not speaking. But I do appreciate you coming on. For everyone liking the show and what we're doing, make sure that you're liking, subscribe, sharing with your friends, leave a 5-star review. That actually helps us a lot because computers and algorithms and the AIs tell us where we rank based on how many people like me. And we're going to be releasing some drinks, some unique cocktails based on some interesting things. So this should come out this summer. I am tirelessly just recording everything I can and drinking my way into oblivion, making sure that these drinks work for y'all. Appreciate it. Drink responsibly. Take care of yourselves. Enjoy a pour with someone and make a memory. Take care, guys, and see you next week. Bye, everyone. You know, there's nothing quite like mixing up a refreshing summer cocktail or pouring a neat glass of your favorite spirit and stepping out into your patio as the sun goes down. But down here in Central Florida, we all know the one thing that could instantly ruin that perfect evening vibe: mosquitoes. You're just trying to enjoy the tasting notes and instead you're swatting away the local wildlife. That's why I'm thrilled to partner with Burn Termite and Pest Control. Summer is right around the corner and Burn is here to help you reclaim your backyard. Their targeted mosquito treatments are exactly what you need to keep your outdoor spaces comfortable, relaxing, and bite-free all summer long. So don't let bugs crash your next patio happy hour. Give the local experts at Burn Termite and Pest Control a call today at 321-297-7985 to get your yard summer ready. Again, that's 321-297-7985. Call Burn Termite and Pest Control and cheers to a pest-free summer.